Alright, hey guys, it's Cardo. I'm going to be showing you guys how to gravity feed your pressure washer from your water tank. Whether you're doing mobile detailing, power washing, solar panel cleaning, any of those industries that involve a water tank and a pressure washer, I'm going to be showing you how to properly gravity feed the whole system. And just so I'm including everyone, I have two different pressure washers right here, one that doesn't have a pump and one that does, so that way you can get an idea on how to properly gravity feed the whole system without having any mishaps. Satisfying visuals paired with some narrative commentary. So, let's get started. Now, in the meantime that the tank is being filled up with water, I just want to give a huge disclaimer. Ideally, you'd want your water tank to be higher than your pressure washer, so that way when the water flows through, it can go straight to your pressure washer rather than having the water trying to go upwards. Now, if you do have a mobile setup, ideally you'd want to work at a leveled location, but hopefully in my example here, well, in my driveway, I am at a slight decline. This example, I get to show you guys that you can gravity feed your system even if the situation doesn't favor you. And as always, if you guys have any questions, make sure to let me know in the comment section down below and I will be responding to them accordingly, filling you in with as much information as I can. So, let's get started. Alrighty, to understand what you're going to do here, you have to understand what gravity feeding means. As the name implies, gravity, you are letting the natural gravity, the natural weight of the water, push everything downward so that way the water shoots out through the hose and into your pressure washer. This method is really handy for people who have pressure washers that have built-in pumps, so that way it's drawing the water while the weight of the water is pushing everything down for a much more effortless process. Now, some people are going to ask, well, what about my pressure washer that doesn't have a pump? Then don't worry, I am going to show you guys how to gravity feed this system, but for now I'm going to be getting to the basics first so that way you could understand how gravity feeding works. Just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to keep it low enough just so you guys can get an idea on how this process works. And yes, I do have all of the product links in the description down below in case you want to check out these specific parts. And before I show you guys the gravity feeding system, I want to show you guys how I have my whole water system oriented on my tank. On the end of my water tank, I do have a valve right here that controls the water flow. I'm not going to turn it on right now, otherwise it's going to spill out. And then this is my main hose line. This is just an example just to show you guys how the gravity feeding system works. I'm keeping it simple just so you guys can understand how gravity feeding system works. Now, if you want to make it a lot easier for yourself, have a valve on the main source of your water tank and then have a valve, or in this case, I do have a 90-degree elbow that has a valve on this. Have it directly connected to your pressure washer, so that way you can control when you can remove the pressure washer or when you want to turn off the main source. It'll make your life a little bit easier and have less of a, I would say, mess down here in case you have to do some service on the pressure washer or whatever other reason you would have to remove it. And just so you guys can see with my layout, I just have a regular hose. Now, of course, if you have your mobile rig, you probably have your reel and everything all fancy and laid out. In this case, I'm just going to be demoing this just to give you guys an example on how you would properly gravity feed this, even if you didn't have the whole rig, the reels and everything. And because this is all garden hose fittings, everything is going to be hand tightened. I am not going to use any pliers or any sort of tools. Most of them have rubber seals on them, so it's going to prevent leaking and all that sort of stuff. Alright, now that you have your whole setup ready, your pressure washer is connected to the tank, your hoses are on, the gun is ready to go, now it's time to gravity feed the system. Now, before you turn on your pressure washer and before you open that valve, you have to keep in mind of one thing. If there is air inside your line, you have to let that air escape first before you turn on the pressure washer. If you know anything about pressure washers, if air gets introduced into the pump, you run the risk of potentially damaging it and you could be caught in a tough situation. Now, one would ask, wait, how do I let the air escape if I already tightened up everything? Now, before you open the valve on the main source, go to your pressure washer and loosen it up ever so slightly just so you can let the air escape. Now, you will have to keep in mind, if you open the valve, water is going to leak right here, but try to keep a towel nearby so that way it can catch all of the water so you don't have a mess in your setup. And once you see the water start dripping from here, then you can hand tighten this so that way all the air has escaped and the only thing that's going into the pressure washer is just water. Now I'm going to show you guys how to properly remove all of the air that's in your hose so that way water flows freely and there's no air being introduced to your pressure washer. Now I'm just going to take this off just so you guys can see that this is the main source that's going to go into my pressure washer, and you want to loosen it up on the main source. Don't loosen it up from here, loosen it up on the main source so that way you can release all the air as much as possible. So then on your setup, just loosen it up ever so slightly. You'll feel that there's a lot of wiggle room. That's completely normal. Make sure that there's enough wiggle room so that way the air can escape from this end. Now when I open up the valve and water comes through here, there's going to be water leaking on this side, and once it starts leaking, quickly tighten it up from here. Make sure it's snug, tighten it by hand, don't use power tools. And once it stops leaking, then you're done. Then you're good to go. Pay attention to how it's gonna look right here. You're gonna see all the air get pushed out and then it's gonna start leaking right here. All right, you guys ready? So here we go. All right, did you see the air that going through? Now I think this is not loose enough. I don't see, oh, it's starting to leak. Can you guys see that? You saw the next air bubble? Yeah, there's a lot of water coming through. So now I can hand tighten this. All right, and it's good to go. And there you go. That's how gravity feeding system works. To make sure that all the air escapes first, and then you can turn on your power washer. Alrighty, and before you guys turn on your pressure washer, you have to let the air out of your hose first, so that way you can allow the water to go through and the pressure washer can properly prime itself. So if you have a nozzle attached, make sure that you remove it, store it away however you want, and then hold the trigger when you turn on the pressure washer, so that way all of the air can escape, and once the water starts spitting out, then you can let this go, and then the pressure washer would then prime itself. So let's get started. Alrighty, so the hose is connected, the gun is ready to go, there's power going through the pressure washer, and I'm going to turn it on now. And like I said, hold the trigger, make sure there's no tip so that we have enough of a gap so the air can escape, and turn on the machine. There you go, and that's how you properly gravity feed the whole system. And then obviously double check your whole system, make sure there's no leaks or anything. It did leak a little bit right here because it was still priming itself, but I'm looking at everything right now. There's no leaks and everything's good to go, and I'm sure you can hear from the microphone. Now my pressure washer is a total stop system, so once I pull the trigger, it's going to release all the water, and once I let go of the trigger, it's going to stop priming itself. And of course, if you just want to continue testing it, you put the nozzle on, make sure it's secured, and squeeze the trigger. Now when you pull the trigger, and if you hear that psh, 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 like you hear a lot of air coming out, that means there's still air trapped in the system. So what you would do is remove your nozzle, store it away however you want, and pull the trigger to let all that air escape. Now if you have a mobile setup and you are limited on water, just shoot the water directly into your water tank, so that way it just cycles everything out and spits out all of the air that is stuck in the system. So yeah guys, that is pretty much the whole procedure on how to properly gravity feed your pressure washer from a water tank. And like I said, you have to let the air out in order to properly prime it. If you had let the air in, which could potentially damage it, and you don't want to be caught in that situation, and in some cases, I've actually experienced this too with this pressure washer right here, that if you don't let the air out, the pressure washer will just keep on priming, and eventually you'll probably burn out the machine. So really, you're just going to be damaging your equipment from that point. So hopefully this quick tutorial can help you guys for those who are doing mobile detailing, power washing, solar panel cleaning. Okay, so this next process, I'm going to show you guys how to gravity feed a pressure washer that doesn't have a pump, unlike this Krenzel 1322 TS. Now the only difficult part with these types of pressure washers, that in some cases it works, in some cases it does not. Now I've used this same exact pressure washer in my previous setup, or the Ford Transit setup. I've used it with and without a pump, and hopefully the information I'm going to provide to you guys can help you get you guys running in case you have a pressure washer that does not have a pump. So let's get started. Now the reason why I said having two valves is a plus is because on this valve right here that goes directly into the pressure washer, you can actually turn it off, unscrew it, and you're not going to have a huge spill, unlike if you were only to have one valve on that end. And also having a quick connect on your main pressure washer also helps. Now I'm going to be installing this one. Now because I've already used the previous machine and I closed this valve, there is no air in here. It's just water. So really I can tighten this all the way and turn on the valve right away. So that way the only thing that's going in here is just water, which is a huge plus. Then all that's left is to connect the pressure washer. There we go. Alrighty, so now everything's ready to go. There's water now going into the pressure washer. All the valves are on, and now all I have to do is flip the switch. Now remember that we're going to treat this the same exact way as the previous pressure washer. Make sure you hold the trigger, remove the nozzle that you have, so that way you get maximum airflow going out, because the air that's still inside the hose, assuming that there is air in there, you want to make sure that all of that is out. Alrighty, so I'm going to pull the trigger. There's no nozzle attached for maximum airflow, and I'm going to turn it on. Now I'm sure you guys can just hear it. This pressure washer sounds really bad when it's plugged in this type of setup. These pressure washers were not designed to draw from a water tank. These were designed to use for home use, consumer grade, used directly with a garden hose with enough pressure going in. But because this is gravity fed, it's not the same amount of pressure as you would get from a tap source. Alrighty, now that there's water going in, it did sound a little bad at first, but now that there's water in, now we can test out with the pressure. Now, just a huge disclaimer, guys, these types of pressure washers were not designed to draw from a water source. These were designed for consumer grade use and to draw from a tap source with pressured water going in. If you are going to be using it in this kind of setup, just keep in mind that these machines, the lifespans of these machines will probably be half or maybe 1/3 because it has to work extra hard drawing from the water tank. I guess it's one of those you get what you pay for kind of things, if I'm being real with you. So if you have one of those high-end pressure washers, gas, Krenzel, what is it, AR Blue, yes, you are going to have a longer lifespan, and those machines are capable of drawing water from a source. But hopefully with the information that I taught you can help you understand how to properly gravity feed your whole system without the use of an external pump. And believe me, guys, I've used an external pump on both of my machines, on both of my setups, and this is not a fun thing to do, as you have to keep it on the whole time, and it's just not a good experience on your end, especially if you're using limited power source, or if you have a gas powered generator. It's just not a good experience at all. So with everything that I taught you, hopefully you can understand how to properly gravity feed your water tank into your pressure washer, so that way you don't have to depend on an external pump. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. If you have any questions, make sure to let me know in the comment section below, so that way I can help you understand how to properly gravity feed your system. And of course, all the products and tools will be listed in the description down below or on my website in case you guys want to check it out. That's going to be it for this video. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe down below for more future content like this down the road, and make sure to hit that bell icon so that way you're notified with every video that I upload. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. You guys have a good time.